Skull and Bones, minus 400 million. Star Wars Outlaws, probably minus 600 million. Assassin's Creed Shadows could probably be close to 800 million, considering this was their saving grace. It was their last chance, and I mean, it ended. And now, Star Wars Outlaws gets its second expansion. Not kidding, that already was a first expansion, and that went poorly. And by poorly, I mean horribly. And by horribly, I mean it was a disaster, okay? It was the apocalypse. But that's just another Tuesday at Ubisoft at this point, honestly. Bad decisions, threatening people if they attack their woke, stupid employees, and other useless garbage dumpster fire crap like that. It is insanity. Ubisoft deserves the worst, and thankfully, they're getting the worst. Because everyone with a functioning frontal cortex hates them. No exceptions. Everything Ubisoft is shit.
Ubisoft has been in such a rough place over the past couple of years, and it doesn't look like it's going to get any better, given Assassin's Creed Shadows did okay, they claimed, but still didn't reach the heights they expected.
The okay is such a lie. The okay is an absolute lie. They're probably counting Game Pass sales as sales for Assassin's Creed Shadows on PlayStation 5 Pro or whatever that console is called. And that's not how the sales work. Oh, boys, it's not looking good. It's horrible.
Wars Outlaws isn't doing so good. X Defiant is being shut down, and Skull and Bones completely failed to capture people's attention.
Best part, Skull and Bones also has an expansion, which already flopped.
And now that they've finally released the Star Wars Outlaws big old DLC, 24 hours later, it's drawn in virtually no players. So they had posted this.
This is effectively worse than Starfield Shattered Space DLC in its retention. For Shattered Space, at least 6% of the player base came back and played it. For Star Wars Outlaws, I'm not sure if even a single percent of players returned to play it.
Over on their X account saying Star Wars Outlaws, A Pirate's Fortune is available now. So this is a big story DLC that they've been promoting for like months at this point. It was supposed to be a big addition for the people who actually have played the game, though it hasn't really done so well because if we check over on SteamDB, it's looking rough now. The all-time
It released on the 15th. Here. I think. I'm pretty sure it released on the 15th. I think there's like an upswing of 3 players right here if you look really, really closely.
time peak was 2 months ago, and that was only 3,397. The 24-hour peak.
Don't worry, guys. Don't worry, guys. Oh, all the fans are actually playing on console. They're playing on console. Ubisoft's not dying. Shut up. Stop. No one asked. Like, what's wrong with you? Why must you die on the hill of I'm gonna fanboy for a console that hot? Why do you people exist? What's the point?
Peak, so since it's released, is 1,212 and in
Can't you just be like everyone else and get hooked on drugs and wither away or something? Can you be less annoying?
game right now is 1,172, and it looks like it's going to max out here. It doesn't really look like it's going to like get any higher for the day. This is very bad. Now, obviously, a thing with Star Wars Outlaws and a lot of Ubisoft games is that they go on to Ubisoft Plus. So if you pay for that subscription,
no one gives a shit. I didn't even know Ubisoft Plus existed like until 2 years ago or something like that. Not really surprising, but still. Let's look at Star Wars Outlaws Steam DB. Let's actually look at what we're going to see, because you know it is the nothing literally has changed, huh? No, nothing literally has changed. Wait, was it in March? Holy, maybe the expansion was on March. No, wait, am I tweaking? Or maybe this was the expansion. Anyway, I'm gonna share the screen so you can see what I'm absolutely gaffing at. Okay, there we go. Look at this absolute beauty of a graph. Maybe it got released at the 4th of March. I mean, there is a substantial increase of players from nothing to slightly more than nothing. I mean, it's visible. I think this was also the first expansion that they dropped, as you can see. Also, extremely good. This was the release. I think this was the second expansion. I think, or something. I'm not sure. Something happened here because I think that was the first expansion here. And then there was this. I mean, look at these. Look at these absolute geeks, boys. That is insane. Too bad they're only like 5 people large. Yeah, if they were in 5 people large, that would be impressive. But they are 5 people large, so it's really bad. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be someone in the comment section trying to defend this Garbanzo Alonso, but hey, it is what it is.
subscription service. You can play Star Wars Outlaws, you can play something like Assassin's Creed Shadows, but developers still need independent copies to sell outside of subscription
Listen, let me explain, okay? Xbox's poor man's attempt at imitating Netflix, well, Netflix itself is kind of imploding because it's not working out for them with the subscription model. Listen, the Xbox Game Pass is a failure. And then you have the even less worthy PlayStation, whatever fucking pass it's called. Yeah, yeah. If the two bigger ones don't succeed, how the hell are you gonna succeed?
services. And we know just looking at something like a Game Pass, games can still sell outside of that. Expedition 33 has sold millions of copies, even though it was a day one Game Pass launch. Starfield had over 300,000 people who purchased it and played it all at once on Steam.
Oh, true.
So seeing, 1,200 people being the max that they can draw in for their big new story expansion is pretty terrible. Now, is this shocking
Terrible. But yes, exactly, mommy expected.
for the state of Ubisoft? Not really. They have been struggling because of all of the games that they've put out over the past like 2 years that have been total flops, and they're getting
God, I
wrecked
love
for it.
these.
There are people saying that this update has caused a ton of issues, lots of technical difficulties to the point where people can't even play. I have the season pass, but I can't even play it on PC, so it's not like they actually implemented it properly. There's plenty of gamers saying, oh my god, who the hell cares? And it really doesn't look like a lot of people do. If you're a fan of this game, I'm really happy for you, and I hope that you thoroughly enjoy this expansion. But I myself couldn't even finish the game.
By the way, the fact that the expansion is a complete shit show and buggy and messed up is on point because remember when when Star Wars Outlaws released, there were a sizable chunk of players who got to a certain part of the game, and then a bug happened, and they could not finish the game. And it was near the later half of the game, like 75% in or something like that, pretty far in. And there was no fix for it. Ubisoft gave a patch to fix the issue, but there was no way. But there was no way to fix the issue to make people who were affected by the bug actually, get fixed. They were just in limbo. So they needed to make a new character if they wanted to finish the game because they couldn't bypass it. It was impossible. Yeah. So the fact that this expansion drops and it's literally unplayable and makes people crash, I mean, part of the course, as you will.
Because I faced a game breaking bug towards the end of the main quest line, so I couldn't even continue it. And I just haven't had the interest in loading it back up and hoping that it's finally going to work after the patches just because it was such a mediocre experience.
By the way, how bad is the fact that this expansion is failing? Well, expansions are typically almost free money because they only require a small fraction considerably from the total amount of money that it took to actually make the game in the first place, and they're pretty profitable always. But in this situation, Well, it didn't sell a single copy. Okay, there's no way that this expansion's DLC, whatever you want to call it, sold a single copy. Okay, maybe 5 people bought it and 3 of them by accident. It is what it is.
Experience. And yeah, I mean these Steam numbers clearly prove that I'm not alone in thinking that this is just a very bad game. And the numbers I just showed are exactly the reason why Ubisoft had reportedly been pressuring Steam
Yeah, imagine a Mandingo character no one wants to play it. Shocking, I know.
to get rid of the concurrent player count because they want to be able to hide the numbers. They don't want
Yeah, this was also a thing. I don't know if this was confirmed or just speculation, but I would not be surprised. Like considering how badly everything's going for Ubisoft, that they would try and you know flail their arms around like a wacky inflatable arm flailing tube man, and trying to make Steam remove the player numbers because they're big mad.
want to be able to be criticized over them. They want to protect, of course, their company and their products as much as possible. And if investors can just go to SteamDB and see these numbers, but Ubisoft is telling them a completely different story, that doesn't add up and they're going to be asked a hell of a lot more questions. And with Star Wars Outlaws, Ubisoft had actually closed one of these studios that helped, laid off 185 employees back in January as the company's financial
Oh, that is good thumbnail art right there. Let me take a real quick step at right there, boys. That is prime thumbnailness. I really need to fix the fact that every time it instantaneously opens my porn folder to save the picture. If something ever happens and you can see, you're gonna see a lot, boys. Okay, not gonna lie, it is what it is. Anyway, Star Wars. There we go. Let's save it.
financial troubles deepen ahead of Shadow's launch. So even before Shadows had released, they weren't doing so good. Now they're still not doing so good because they're saying players engaged instead of copies sold, which is very suspicious. But Ubisoft wants a beacon of innovation and creativity.
Yeah, again, we are at triple A is where Netflix was 5 years ago. Okay, they're at the point where they can no longer say people watched, people played, people bought. Now they need to be nanoseconds played because that's the only number that feels big.
In the gaming industry continues its precipitous decline with the recent announcement of significant studio closures and widespread layoffs. The company's struggles, marked by failed game launches, internal controversies, and strategic missteps, have culminated in a series of actions that signal a desperate attempt to salvage what remains of its once thriving empire. Ubisoft had revealed the closure of Ubisoft Leamington, a UK-based studio that had been part of the Ubisoft family since its acquisition from Activision in 2017, formerly known as Freestyle Games. Leamington employed around 50
What the fuck is this ad?
dedicated professionals who contributed to notable titles like Star Wars Outlaws, Skull and Bones, Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, The Division 2, and Far Cry 5. So, mostly games that have failed. The shutdown of the studio not only marks the end of an era for its employees, but also underscores the broader challenges Ubisoft faces in maintaining its diverse portfolio of games. I, as a gamer, just
Listen, there's no diverse portfolio of games when it comes to Ubisoft. They have slop on slop with a little bit of sprinkling of slop at the end, okay? The only thing diverse about Ubisoft is probably their essay history. That's the only thing that's diverse about them.
want Ubisoft to make good games again. I don't want them to nickel and dime players. I want them to go back to creating high quality content, and then they would have so much support. They have so many amazing characters and franchises and stories that they could use. And instead, they're worried about something like Star Wars Outlaws, which provides no value for the price. It is a really mediocre experience, and it didn't click with audiences the way that other Star Wars games have. I know that it was EA who'd previously made Star Wars Jedi Survivor and Star Wars Fallen Order. Those were Respawn and EA, and those did fantastic. Combined 15 million copies sold,
Yep, those were the only good Star Wars games in 2 decades.
which is really good. And they were hoping to capitalize on that Star Wars hype with Outlaws, but that just didn't happen. So
Dude, I love when these companies try to capitalize on some kind of magical hype, okay? The hype doesn't work. We have so much information. We have trailers. We have people that have autism and talk about it, like me and whatnot. We have so much information. There's no way they can ride the hype train and sell a shit. It doesn't work any longer. Well, it works, but very, very, very sparingly and rarely, honestly.
Hey, if you're a fan of this game, this DLC is available right now. You can go and you can play it, but you are one of the
Yeah, you're one of none. That's a great thing to write if you're a woman on Instagram. Anyway, very dark. 10 out of 10. Bye.